Hi there, Shannon Harton of the Harton team at Nest Realty in Richmond, Virginia. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Richmond Nest Show, episode 4 on home inspections for sellers. That's an interesting topic because it's usually the buyers that do inspections, right? Well, of course, they almost always do. 99% of home sales have what's called a home inspection contingency, which is where you give the buyer permission to spend 7 to 10, maybe 14 days doing inspections, turning up whatever defects they can discover and then negotiating repairs. But on the subject of seller inspections, I want to talk a little bit about the great marketing tool and peace of mind purchase you get with a pre-inspection just before we go on the market. That is, we can have an inspector come in, generally somewhat discounted to the full $400 to $450, maybe $500 that a buyer would pay. Generally, for a little bit less than that, we can have an inspector come in, do pretty much the same inspection before you go on the market, find out what there is to find out. Then that gives you the opportunity to address those problems. You can generally spend much less if you fix a leaky faucet, for example, or a leak in your crawl space before you list, rather than waiting for the buyer to find it and then ask for a credit of perhaps twice as much, because inspectors' guesstimates on what repairs will cost are always somewhat inflated. So finding those problems in advance and fixing them can save you money. It can also be a powerful marketing tool because you can lay out on your dining room table, for example, this full-fledged report of the inspection you just had done, finding these 12 defects, for example, along with a receipt from a contractor showing that you fixed them all. Well, that is a great confidence builder for any buyer. Not that they're not still going to do their inspection, and not that they're not still going to find a few defects on top of that, because no inspection is perfect. But you will have circumvented a large headache, plus you won't have to hold your breath nearly as long. Because I'll tell you, the 7 to 10 days you give that buyer to do their own inspection is a little bit of a stressor. You're going to lay at night staring at the ceiling wondering what they're going to find. And immediately after the inspection, you'll stare at the ceiling thinking, what did they find? What are they going to ask for? So long story short, having the inspection done in advance removes those questions, gives you the opportunity to fix those unknown defects. And even after you find out defects, you're under no obligation to tell the buyer about them. If you find out about 10, 12 defects and you only want to fix 10 of them and leave the other 2, you don't have to tell the buyer what you found. Be aware though, if your realtor, if your licensed real estate agent on the Harton team, for example, becomes aware of those defects, we do have to disclose them. Our standard for disclosure is much higher than yours as a home seller. In the state of Virginia, sellers don't have to disclose anything except any pending code violations. That you have to disclose. Nothing else do you have to disclose. Now, a little note on disclosure. Though you don't have to disclose defects, you cannot actively hide defects. That is, if there is a leak up in the corner of the dining room every time it rains, and you get up there and paint over that stain every time there's a showing just to hide it, that definitely constitutes fraud. That's crossing a line into hiding a problem that's beyond just not needing to disclose it. But if there's a leak in the crawl space, you know about it, it would be obvious to any inspector, you're under no obligation to disclose that to a prospective buyer. If your agent knows there's a leak in the crawl space, and that's a material defect, we do have to disclose it. So, all that is to say, be judicious in what you let your licensed real estate know about. Well, that's all I've got to say about seller home inspections. I think it's an interesting topic. Would love to talk to you more about it. Thanks for tuning in to the Richmond Nest Show. I'm Shannon Harton at the Harton team of Nest Realty. Look forward to seeing you next time.